Hello, this is K6OZY, and this is part 2 of my video series on how to set up 2 Raspberry Pis to perform a remote VPN bridge so that you can use your Maestro immediately over the WAN until official VPN support is added, which will be very soon. In the last video, we went over how to create your home server. Now, this video has a lot in common with it, so we will go a little faster through areas that have overlap with the other video. But let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your Raspberry Pi as you imaged it with Raspbian and boot it up. It's going to get an IP on your home network via DHCP, and we're going to discover the IP address through looking at the DHCP lease table or sticking a monitor and keyboard on it and examining it on boot. If you refer to the other video, you'll see that I go in and show you where to look for the lease on your DHCP lease table for my router, which will be different than yours. So we're going to assume you've already found that IP address, and we're going to SSH into it. So I'm going to use PuTTY, and I'm going to connect to the IP and log in as Pi and Raspberry. Oops, I think I typed that wrong. Again, you should change this password. It's the default password for Raspbian. So, just like on the other side, on the other video, where you ran raspi-config to expand the file system, and we're also going to change it to boot console only right here. And then we're going to hit finish and reboot. In the other video, we went through how to set up a static IP, which makes sense for a server. But since this is going to be used only on this Ethernet port when you want to configure it, there's no point in us disabling DHCP. Matter of fact, what we need to do is define both a static IP and allow DHCP at the same time. And unlike Windows and Unix, you can do that quite easily. So the reason for that is if you were out in the field with this combination and you needed to get on it onto the Raspberry Pi and reconfigure it in the field, SSH into it, you could tether a network cable between the Ethernet interface of the Pi and directly over to your laptop, reconfigure your laptop to use an IP address in the same subnet that I'm going to configure this static IP on, and then SSH into the Pi in the field to fix something that may go wrong, or to add more wireless networks to its scan list. That's probably the more realistic reason why you would need to do that. But anyway, we're going to log in as Pi, Raspberry. You can see if I type ifconfig that there is an interface ETH0. It has an IP from the network. If there was no DHCP server, that would not be configured. So we're going to define an aliased IP that has a static IP along with the DHCP that it will try to do. So again, we're going to do it in the etc network interfaces file. We're going to edit with pico and type auto eth0:1. That's the nomenclature for an aliased IP. iface eth0:1 inet static. Any address range, you need to pick a subnet that you're never going to use for your home networks. So that's why I picked 10.10.10.1. The likelihood of a router from like ASUS or Linksys or Cisco that uses this subnet is pretty much never going to happen. So that's why I chose that. And there's the net mask. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And on boot up, it would get the IP. You can actually force it to put up right now by typing sudo ifup eth0:1 or just reboot. And then if you notice, if I type ifconfig, that there's now an IP address on Ethernet 0 of my home network, and now there's another IP bound to the same network adapter of 10.10.10.1. When we boot with the Maestro directly tethered through Ethernet to this Pi, there will not be a local DHCP server running between the two, because the way the bridge works is that the bridge will try to use the internet connection that the Pi has access to, which will be through a wireless connection, to connect to the home Pi server. Once it connects successfully, it will bridge all your home traffic over to this Ethernet interface that's tethered to the Maestro. That will include all the broadcast information and all the DHCP server traffic that your home network will have active. So you don't want to run a DHCP server on the Pi's Ethernet interface, because it will collide with the DHCP server that will be bridged across from the SoftEther VPN server. And that's why we choose to not do it that way. But I configure a static IP so that if you're in the field, you can get in and reconfigure the Pi if something goes wrong. Okay, so now we've verified that the aliased IP is hot, and now we're going to install SoftEther server, the same package as we did before. There's no difference in what we did on this step than we did on the other for the server. So I'm going to download the VPN server just like last time. I'm going to extract it just like I did last time. I'm going to compile it just like I did last time. I know I'm going a little fast. If you look at the other video, I take my time, but this is just repeat. Okay, I'm going to sudo move VPN server to user local. I'm going to sudo chown root staff recursively user local VPN server. And I'm going to set up that init script. So I'm going to become root, go into the etc init.d directory, pico VPN server, paste my script in there, save, exit, chmod it so it's executable, update the system to start the VPN server on boot, and then start the server right now. Check that it's running in memory, and it's running just fine. Okay, well, here's where things get a little different. Now we're going to connect to the VPN server with the same server manager utility that we used on the other video. And what we're going to do is actually test this. Now, since I recycled the Pi from the other video, it doesn't exist on anymore. It was on .9. Now my home one's legitimately on .10. So I'm going to go into my my real one and show you the users. I nuked all the users for the video for privacy reasons, and then what I do is I create an account called VPN Bridge. This can coexist with all the other normal clients that you may have in there, but I would advise making an account. You can call it whatever you want. I call it VPN Bridge. I set a password for it, and it is what we're going to use on the Pi's VPN Bridge configuration to connect. The account obviously has to match. So that's running. I'm going to open up another instance of the server manager, connect to the Pi. It should ask you to reset the password. but it did not. 1 second. Okay, so I had to delete that old entry and re-add it again. I was trying to reuse a shortcut and that didn't work. So if you add it fresh, it'll ask you for a new fresh password. I'm going to set it to Raspberry because I'm going to destroy this guy when we're finished. Password's changed. And now this looks just like the wizard that we used on the other video for the server. But instead of picking remote access VPN server, this time we're going to pick VPN bridge. And then which type of role, we're going to do a VPN server or VPN bridge at edge site. Hit next. We'll reconfigure it. For that, again, it'll create a new hub, leave it as VPN, no to Azure. Notice that we can't create users in a bridge configuration. Now we're going to configure the connection setting. Now in here, you're going to call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it home VPN. Now the host name is going to be that whatever.softether.net that you had. Mine is aussie.softether.net. Now your port number needs to be changed to that 555 that matches the other video. It's going to connect, find the VPN bridge, and then over here, the VPN hub name, and over here, this is where we're going to put the VPN bridge user and the password. Now we're going to hit OK, and you'll see that it's established. Now, it's established, but it's not useful right now. It's so after this is established, this is just to make sure that your user account works. This isn't useful right now because we're actually going out the Ethernet interface that we're not going to use. So this just makes sure that the bridge configuration is sane. Now we're going to reconfigure the Pi to connect to the internet a different way. We're going to use, I use my iPhone or my iPad. And so now we're going to do that. So we're going to hit exit here. And then you must pick, this is very important. Now, it's asking you which interface you're going to bridge. And when you pick that, you are going to bridge the Ethernet interface onto your home network. So we're going to pick ETH0. Okay, so actually you need to pick WLAN 0 because the internet connection is going to be going out through the wireless. So on their server you picked ETH0. On this example we're going to pick WLAN 0. Hit that and it's running. So now at this point we need to reconnect to the terminal here and set up your Wi-Fi. Now for this example I went in and renamed my iPhone to just iPhone, and I changed the password to Flex Radio. Obviously this is going to be different for your configuration. You need to examine your hotspot settings and make them proper. But so that I can show you this on the internet, I changed this temporarily. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go to the etc WPA supplicant directory. And in this directory, there's a WPA supplicant file. I'm sorry, I used VI again. Pico, WPA supplicant. Now, in this file, you list all the different SSIDs, the networks that you want the Pi to hunt for. You can put multiple entries, one after the other. So like if you had an iPad, you could put another one here that said, you know, iPad, rather than this. This is just any SSID, you know. It's going to be a hotspot because you're going to be in the field. So, you know, iPad or whatever. And it will hunt in order everything that is in this list. But for this demo, I'm going to only have one SSID in here, and it's going to be that. So you can hit Control X, yes, enter. And then to test it, what I'm going to do is type sudo if down WLAN 0, or just I'm already root, so if down WLAN 0 and then if up. And if it works, it will grab an IP. Now I have a video camera that I'm going to end up switching to towards the end of this video, but for now I'm just going to show you on the Pi side what it looks like. On the Bluetooth, on the hotspot side, I'm going to go flip it on right now, and it's on. You can't see it because it's on my iPhone. And right now I'm going to issue an if down WLAN 0, and you'll notice if config, it's not running. There's no IP on it. Now I'm going to type if up WLAN 0, and on my iPhone it showed a new hotspot, new connection to my hotspot. And if I if config shortly after here, it should grab an IP right there. And see if it shows a route in. And it's overriding with my Ethernet interface, but it did grab an IP. So that's working. And it grabbed a legitimate IP here. And now you can see in my routing table, there's 2 default gateways. So this is good. This means it now has a way to get to the internet through my iPhone. So now that that's working, the next step is to power off the Pi, tether the Ethernet cable between the Pi and the Maestro. Boot the Pi first. This allows it to start up properly, join my iPhone, then connect the VPN over the wireless interface, and then start the bridging of the VPN traffic. Then I boot Maestro, and when Maestro boots, it wants to look for a network DHCP server. It'll do a DHCP request, that'll get bridged over to the VPN, and then it will connect. So because this is not released yet, I'm still under NDA from Flex. There are some screens I cannot show, so I will be holding up a card in front of the Maestro to prevent those from being seen. Sorry about that, but it's just the way it is. I have to respect Flex Radio's agreement, and since I don't know which parts of these screens are NDA'd, I best just not show certain parts of it until it's released and we're running on actual release software. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to my other screen here. Now, I'm not a really good pro at this, so please, if I mess up, give me some slack. Okay. All right, so you can see right down here that I have my personal hotspot turned on. Okay, adjust, come on, auto exposure, there we go. And you can see that I have that there, and on the iPhone, that there's a little blue bar that will appear across the top when I drop my card, when a connection is made. So now I'm going to power off the Maestro. I'm sorry, power off the Pi. And it's shutting down. And good to go. So I'm going to pull the power on that. I'm going to pull out my network cable that goes to my home network. This guy goes to the back of this Maestro. We're going to plug him in directly. We're going to apply power back to the Pi. And now what we're waiting for is for the Pi to join my Wi-Fi. So it should boot up, join the Wi-Fi, and connect. That camera hunts a lot, doesn't it? Come on. Now if it doesn't connect, we're going to have to re-tether the Ethernet interface and go inspect. The nice thing is that we don't have to really kill any processes, because as soon as we tether in that Ethernet interface, remove and replug it in, it's going to try to find an IP again and immediately be back on my home network. So it's not joining. So like I said, this stuff's done live, so let's figure out what's wrong here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this Ethernet interface, plug this guy back in. Switch back over to scene 1. Oh, gosh darn it, I wasn't patient enough. So now if I go back to the other interface here, I was just impatient. There we go, you can see the blue bar across the top, connection. So now what I want to do is, because this is the first time I'm doing this, I want to make sure it actually connected okay. So I will be switching back to the desktop real quick. Minimize this so it's not an infinite loop. And now I'm going to go to my server at home and manage sessions. And there it is. It's connected. So you see the VPN bridge has an established connection. And it's logged in as user VPN bridge. So that means it's connected. That's great. And I can hit refresh, and we can see that traffic increasing because it's bridging all of my broadcast traffic and everything else that's on my home network. It's not too busy, but it's not zero. Okay. So keep refreshing, making sure that guy's there. Now, actually, it might have given up because I plugged in the Ethernet interface from my home. To see if that's the case, I'm going to quickly disconnect the Ethernet interface, hit refresh. I want to make sure that it's not using my home Ethernet connection for this. Yep, see, it was. So it was connected internally for a while because I had it tethered with my Ethernet, and I unplugged it and it swapped over to my mobile. So there's the fresh interface. So it truly is working because now it migrated the same VPN connection over. This first one will time out after a little bit. Matter of fact, I can forcefully disconnect it because it's dead, and so we're good. That's a great sign. So this means the VPN bridge is successfully joining my Wi-Fi, my hotspot on my iPhone, and then connecting to my home network. Great. So now I'm going to reconnect that Ethernet cable that goes over to the Maestro, just like that. Now we're going to switch back over to the other camera. Okay. Now I'm going to grip my card because I'm going to boot it up. And while it's booting, we can look at all these different Pi's pinouts. Or we can just kind of pan over here to the right a little bit. You can see there. Look at my other Maestro, stuff like that. While it's booting, I'll just do that instead of showing you a stupid card. Okay, so that's Maestro's booting okay right there. pause for a second. Okay. And now when it successfully connects, you will see, it'll show you your Wi-Fi networks that it can see, but notice that on the bottom it says connected to Ethernet, and I can skip and go right to radio, and it shows my two radios there, my 6500 and my 6700. The top one is in use. Sorry for it to be blurry. Let's see if I can focus it any. I have to do it through the system here. See if I can cut the exposure back some by hand. There we go. Manual focus a little bit. There we go. It's in use there. So then I'm going to pick this. Before I hit connect, I have to pan away because it's going to show some internal software versions. Pick the version I'm going to demo with it, hit run. I can come back down. And then it initializes properly. It's really dark because I was running on batteries earlier, and it's restoring my low brightness mode. Let me turn the brightness up a little bit. There we go, nice and bright. And you can see it's working just fine. I was using it on a 2-meter repeater. This is going over my cellular connection. Now, because it's going over cellular, I would highly recommend slowing down the frame rate. So we're going to slow down the frame rate of the waterfall and the frame rate of the spectral display, just like we do in Smart SDR when we're doing this, to not A, burn up my bandwidth, and B, make any stuttering. And we'll try to go down to 80 meters, but I need to switch to my loop because the other radio has the Let's see if we see anything. The demo isn't necessarily to show you receptions, but you can see just fine.
It reminds me of 2008. I was caught off guard then. How do I prepare for the worst now? What'll I do if the dollar collapses? You gotta stop worrying, son, and take action. It's time to think about a precious metals private storage IRA or an investment.
So it's looking great, and this is over my cell phone. Oh, I woke up my cell phone and freaked it out. So again, I paused it earlier because I did make a mistake. Let me go back over to the computer and show you guys the mistake I made. Okay, so the mistake I made was when I set up the bridge, I picked WLAN 0, and I should have picked ETH0, just like you do on the other server. I was sitting there and I was confused, and I made that mistake. So I'll show it to you on my home server since I can't really connect to the other server since it's connected through Wi-Fi. But down here in the local bridge setting, it says ETH0. I had you pick WLAN 0 at the beginning, and that was wrong. You do need to pick ETH0 for both the bridge and the server. So that was what I did wrong, and that's why I didn't see the server on boot up. And there it's working just fine, and you can see, oh man, I've already pulled in 70 megs. You can see how fast that thing consumes bandwidth, so you need to be really careful on your hotspot. I'm going to slow down the display and the frame rate to 1, and let's see if that, yeah, see that significantly slowed it down. You can really burn through your bandwidth, so be very careful. So again, I'm going to go through the process of shutting it down and booting it back up just to show you that it does work seamlessly when it's fully working. I know there's little gotchas there when I was setting it up real time, so let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and power down the Maestro. You're not seeing me do that. Now you ask, how do I power down my Pi since I don't really have a head on it? Well, you don't. You're going to have to roll the dice. Pulling the plug on the Pi can be destructive, but we're going to do it anyway. So we're going to switch back over to the camera interface. I know it's dark, but I'm going to do that. Let me pan over here. Pull the power. And then, let's see if I can gain this up a little more for you here. Plug this back in. Make sure you have your hotspot ready. On the iPhone, you have to have the you have to be sitting in the personal hotspot in order for it to connect. There it goes. Boom. See how much quicker that was this time? So I would just say give it a little bit of time as it then boots up the VPN server. You know, the VPN server is going to come up. It's going to establish that connection. Bring the exposure back up for you a little bit. Uh-oh. I think I accidentally unplugged the Pi. So we need to boot up again. Make sure your cable's not loose, because that will just cause problems. Trying to manipulate this interface here so we can see this better. Okay, it's reconnected to my iPhone. You can see it's got the blue bar across the top. And I'm looking at my bridge here. It shows it's connected on home. I just wanted to make sure it was. I'm going to turn on the Maestro. So you can see it boots up. If it finds an IP on the Ethernet interface, it'll skip right past the Wi-Fi and show me the radio. Just like that. That means everything worked perfectly. Plus you can see in the corner, and then if you touch on it, connected to Ethernet. That's great. So now I have to pan away again for a second. I'm really sorry about having to do this, but it's just, I've got to do that. Hit connect, pick the software version. And it restores all my preferences, and there we go. I'm set to, you know, it restored my frame rate of 1 and 1. Now, if you didn't care about your bandwidth, you could really bang on it hard. I only have 3 bars of LTE here, so let's see if we can what our threshold of 3 bars is. Frame rate at 30, waterfall about 80. That's the default. I'm going to open up. All your bandwidth is consumed in your pans. Your audio is very low. It's only 70 kilobits per second. But if I open up another pan here, it's going to really bang on it here. So I'm going to open it up again here. And I'm going to quickly bring out the display and tame this one. And you can hear the audio dropping. That is because I'm running out of bandwidth. That isn't the radio's fault. That's the lack of internet connectivity here. So I can still make it work by just dropping the rate down and then dropping the frame rate down to like 15 frames. And it'll heal. Plus, my iPhone could be doing stuff. You know, it could be checking mail itself. But typically, if you're on a WAN connection, until WAN is officially supported, where there's going to be some compression employed on the spectral data, I don't run 2 pans remotely, ever. Unless I'm on wired Ethernet. And at that point, we'll have our VPN client native in there. So yeah. So if you need to reconfigure the Pi, I know you can stop the video at this point if I'm going to rehash some old information. If you needed to reconfigure the Pi, all you need to do is, I'm going to turn off the Maestro and I'm going to forcefully drop the, gosh darn it, sorry about the exposure. I'm going to forcefully drop the hotspot. Okay. Then I'm going to, I don't even have to cycle the Pi. I'm just going to pull the Ethernet interface off the Pi. That was the one that went between here and the Maestro directly. And then here's my home network. Plug this in. Now, if you were in the field, remember you could still get into it by binding an IP to like 10.10.10.2 with a net mask of 255.255.255.0. Then you could SSH into 10.10.10.1, which was the IP we bound on this. But since we're home, plugging this in will make it reacquire an IP on my home network. I can then switch back to the desktop here. Turn on that auto there. Go back over here. And reconnect on PuTTY. And it should be good. There he goes. Pi. And then Raspberry. Again, if you needed to go back in and add some more networks, you simply go into the Etsy WPA supplicant directory and edit the WPA supplicant file, and you keep adding as many networks as you need right here, and it will attempt them all. Well, I hope that helps you guys set this up. I know I made a couple mistakes halfway through it, but hey, we all do. It's pretty awesome. It works very well. It works very reliably. Once you get it working on your Pi, because you will be unplugging the thing in the field, you may want to make a copy of your SD card onto its second one in case it corrupts. I haven't had it happen yet, but I would totally expect it to be possible. You're inappropriately pulling the power on the Pi and ultimately could cause it to lose the disk, little SD card, and corrupt it. So this will give you guys something to do to get your second Raspberry Pi up and working on the bridge before you get the Maestros in your hand, hopefully soon. And I hope to see you guys at Dayton. I'll be at the Flex booth with Dayton. Drop by and say hi. 73, everybody. Take care.